Okay. Uh, yeah, Malika, I'm audible. Okay, you can start the presentation.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Okay.
So, morning everyone. Here I am there to take charge over the solubility. So, my voice is audible, no? Clearly?
Malika, your voice is not
Yeah?
clearly audible.
Okay, sir. Okay. Okay, now it is audible?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's start with the first slide. So basically, the definition of solubility have elaborated in terms of qualitative and in terms of quantitative. Solubility is defined in okay. Quantitatively, it is defined as the concentration of solute in a saturated solution at a certain temperature. Okay, here in the solubility in the solution we are dissolving solute to the solvent. So solubility in terms of quantitatively it is defined as the concentration of solute in the saturated solution at a certain temperature, whereas qualitatively it is defined as spontaneous interaction between two or more substances to form a homogeneous molecular dispersion. Here in this definition you can take solute and solvent in place of two or more substance. Okay, the solubility in quantitatively terms it is defined as the interaction, the spontaneous interaction between the what, two or more substance, or you can just replace those words by solute and solvent to form a homogeneous solution at a constant temperature. Okay, clear about the solubility definition? It is defined in both terms, quantitative and qualitative. So let's see about the mechanism of solute-solvent interaction. In the solubility definition, in both quantitative and qualitative, we have seen that solute is going to dissolve in the solvent and form a homogeneous solution. But the mechanism of formation of that homogeneous solution is as follows. Initially, there is the cleavage of solute-solute intermolecular bonds. Then after there will be the cleavage of solvent-solvent intermolecular bonds. Then there will be the formation of cavity in the solvent to accommodate solute molecules. Then the movement of solute into the cavity of solvent take place, and then at last the formation of solute-solvent intermolecular bonds occur. So here they have simply elaborated into the in this chart form that initially there will be the cleavage of solute-solute intermolecular bonds, then solvent-solvent bonds will get cleaved, then there will be the formation of cavity in the solvent because solute is going to be dissolved in the solvent. That's why the cavity will occur in the solvent to dissolve or to accommodate that solute. After accommodation of solute into the cavity of solvent, there will be the formation of complex or there will be the formation of intermolecular bonds in between solute and solvent. Okay, now let's move to this chart. This chart is very important in when we see in the perception of MCQ based, but because here four classes are there which are under biopharmaceutical classification system. So the first class is saying about high solubility and high permeability. So here, if you see the plotted graph, on y-axis there is the permeability and on x-axis there is the volume required to dissolve the highest dosage. Okay, that means the concentration of solvent. In short, in the first class, they have elaborated that high solubility and high permeability. In the subsequent quadrant or class, low solubility and high permeability. In the third class, high solubility and low permeability. And in the fourth and last class, both the solubility as well as permeability are low. Okay, these four classes are very important in perception of MCQ based. Okay. Now let's move to the syllabus content, that solubility expressions. There I have quoted 7 most important expressions in my view. The first is gram per ml. It is the number of solute present in 1 ml of solvent or dissolved in 1 ml of solvent. Okay, in case of subsequent, it is molarity. It is defined as the number of moles of solute present in 1 liter of solution or dissolved in 1 liter of solution. Okay, molality, it is the number of moles of solute per kg of solution. Okay, normality, the gram equivalent moles of solute per liter of solution. Here I am not explaining because it is a mug-upping part, it is understanding part, so anything is not present to explain here. So I am just reading it out, and yeah, I am pretty much sure that you have also learned it too. The subsequent is the normality, which is the gram equivalent moles of solute per liter of solution. The percentage weight by weight. Here the weight of solute is dissolved in 100 gram of solvent. Here the solute as well as solvent both are present in the kgs form, in the weight form. Okay, they are solid form. Okay, but in case of percentage weight by volume, that is sixth one, it is defined as the weight of solute dissolved in 100 ml of solvent. And in the seventh one's percentage volume by volume, V by V, the volume of solute dissolved in 100 ml of solvent. Okay. Now subsequent part that we are going to see is the factors affecting solubility. There are numerous factors, but the most vital factors I have quoted here. The initial one is the temperature, which says the solubility has the direct relation with the temperature. Okay. The process called exothermic, that is heat will be get liberated out, and in the endothermic the heat will get absorbed. Okay, differs with the relation. Now we are knowing the simple basic relation that solubility has direct ratio or direct relation with temperature. That means if temperature in case increases, solubility will also increases. But there is the point where we have to think that exothermic and endothermic process. I have also told that in exothermic heat is going to be liberated and in the endothermic heat is going to be absorbed. With these two processes, the temperature relation is having difference. In the exothermic case, the process of exothermic has inverse ratio with the temperature, and the endothermic process has the direct ratio with the temperature. Okay, you have to keep this in the mind. The second is the particle size. Yeah, the particle size has inverse ratio with solubility. If we are going to take the factor particle size, we are also having most vital concept of surface area. We are very well known that if the particle size is small, we are having large and greater surface area. If the surface area is greater, the any unit processes in which the particle is undergoing will be accelerated. Okay, so particle size has inverse ratio with solubility, because as the particle size increases, the surface area uh, will undergo in will undergo strain, and due to which it shrinks, and due to which it will not accelerate the solubility process. Okay, the nature of solvent, the solvents are polar. The polar solutes is the simplest part. The crystal structure. Here we have seen in the states of matter that crystalline structure and amorphous or pseudo-solids. In the crystalline structure, we have seen the 3D, three-dimensional geometrical arrangement of atoms or molecules within a cell. Whereas in the amorphous, there is the random distribution of atoms or molecules in within an cell. So here amorphous solid will dissolve at faster rate than crystalline solid, because the 3D arrangement of crystalline solid, the strength of the bond in between them is little bit more stronger as compared to amorphous. That's why if the in the case of solubility, the amorphous solid, that is pseudo solid, will be dissolved at faster rate. The molecular structure, the groups like hydrophilic, water affectionate, and hydrophobic, which is lipid affectionate or water phobic, build within a molecule has, just a minute. Yeah, the group like hydrophilic, which I have told water loving or lipid phobic, and hydrophobic, which is lipid affectionate and water hating, build within an molecule has impact on solubility. Usually, if we are taking the solvent which is polar and we are making it a, mechanism with the solute which is lipophilic, okay, which is lipid affectionate, then there will be no any complex formation. There will be the complex formation, but external force at particular pressure temperature we have to make that complex. In the micelle formation, critical solution temperature, we have seen those all concepts. So similar here, the insolubility case, the molecular structure, that is hydrophilic and hydrophobic, will have impact on solubility. Okay, just a minute. Yeah, the subsequent will be the pH. Okay, for ionizing substance, the ionizing substance is a kind of substance at a particular pH it get ionized. Okay, at all particular pH it will get ionized. Okay, for ionizing substances, solubility can be enhanced by change in the dipole movement. Just a minute. Sorry for the interruption. Yeah. For the ionizing substance, solubility can be enhanced by change in the dipole movement. In case of pH, the equation called Henderson-Hasselbalch equation is proposed, which states as follows. Okay, the pH has the impact on the ionizing substance and non-ionizing substance. So that relation of this solubility with pH is proposed by Henderson-Hasselbalch equation, which is pH is equal to pKa plus log S minus S naught by S naught. For the it was this equation for acid. The following equation is for base, that is pH is equal to pKb plus log S minus S naught by S naught. So here in the
Hello.
so
Yes. Yeah. Malika, here I will correct you some points in this equation. Okay. Now here in that particular equation, here S minus S0. Why we are taken S minus S0? Because if you know the solubility, then also it is possible to calculate the pK value. That is pK value. It is called as an ionization constant, and depending on the ionization constant, the solubility is also takes place, because ionization constant, it plays an important role. But suppose it also affect this ionization constant, it affect on whole ADME process, that is absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion process. That's why we are considering what we are going to calculating this solubility analysis by using both two factors. One is known as an intrinsic solubility of that drug, and particularly in intrinsic solubility of that drug, already we know that the intrinsic solubility yes, which is equal to solubility which is equal to yes into 1 plus divided by concentration of pH plus ion, and then another one equation yes which is equal to yes 0 plus K2 or divided by concentration of an H plus ions. Now by using that equation also it is possible to determine the intrinsic solubility of that drug. And now here also by using S minus S0 this equation it is by using also this equation it is possible to calculate the intrinsic solubility of that drug. And then another one important thing is that also to calculate the ionization constant, how whether it is a ionized as well as an unionized drug, that part is also possible, and depending on that ionization constant, the solubility is also affect. Okay, you can continue. Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the additional information. So let's move to the next slide. Just a minute. Yeah, diffusion principle in the biological system. Up till now, we have studied about the definition of solubility in terms of quantitative and qualitative. Just I am recalling the points. I'm not again repeating those points. You can download the recorded video many times. Okay, then we have seen their reasons, few of them, and now we are going to proceed with the diffusion principle in the biological system. So basically, the diffusion is a process where the particles move from the region of high concentration to the region of low concentration. It is the very basic definition for the diffusion. Now, this diffusion in the biological system or a physiological system of a human body is carried out by the aid of passive diffusion, active transport, pole transport, carrier mediated transport, ion pair transport. Okay, there are various activities that occur in our body through passive diffusion. Example, drug absorption through GI tract and skin. Now, apart from this, yes, I'm audible. Yeah, yeah, you can reply, please. May
Yes.
I audible? Yes. Okay, thank. Clearly audible, no? Yeah. So,
Yes.
so I was telling you that apart from these transports, these diffusions, the passive diffusion is prominently used pathway for the diffusion of drug. Okay, in our human body. It may be the drug absorption through GI tract, gastrointestinal tract, or it may be through the skin. Okay, just we will go through the passive diffusion. Here, the definition of diffusion is quoted again that the movement of particles from high concentration to low concentration occur. Passive diffusion is most prominent method. Nearly 90% of drugs get absorbed through this diffusion. Okay, uh, yeah, 90% of drugs get absorbed through this diffusion. Now, this passive diffusion is well explained by the Fick's first law, where the equation is as follows: dm by minus dm by dt is equal to dsk by small h into cg minus cp. Now let's see what this terminology actually means. Here, minus dm by dt is the amount of drug diffusing per unit time. Okay, minus dm by dt is what? The amount of drug that is going to be diffused per unit time. Capital D in DSK is saying the diffusion coefficient of the drug that you are going to be administered. S is the membrane surface area.
Here, Malika.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now this equation how it comes by according to Noise-Whitney equation, that is the rate of diffusion. Whatever the rate of diffusion, it depend on the concentration of concentration gradient. That is concentration gradient. Therefore, According to Noise-Whitney equation, the rate of diffusion or the movement of a molecule from a concentration of one side to the another side is directly proportional to its concentration gradient. Then after the Noise-Whitney equation, again the fix it work on the how the molecules are going to be diffuses, and then the fix is modified the Noise-Whitney equation, that is dm by dt, it is a rate, and dsk, k is known as a constant, and d is the diffusion coefficient, s is the surface area, and h is the height of the diffusion layer, and cg minus cp both are the concentration gradient. Okay, yeah, you can continue now.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So here we were about the dm by dt, which is the amount of drug that is diffusing per unit time. The capital D, as the sir have told, it is the diffusion coefficient of the drug. Capital S is the membrane surface area through which the drug is going to be absorbed. Okay. K is the partition coefficient of the drug. This capital K is very vital to understand the nature of the drug also. So it has the ratio with the natures that we are going to see further. Okay. K is the what? The partition coefficient, very vital. Cg is the drug concentration in the GI tract, and Cp is the drug concentration in the systemic circulation. Small h, as he have told, it is the height और membrane thickness. ठीक है, देखो अभी यहाँ पे मैंने बोला द ड्रग कॉन्सेंट्रेशन इन द जीआई ट्रैक्ट एंड ड्रग कॉन्सेंट्रेशन इन द सिस्टमिक सर्कुलेशन. तो अभी एक मैं एग्जांपल दूंगी. इफ यू आर हैविंग अ हेडेक, यू जस्ट टेक अ ड्रग अंडर द कैटेगरी ऑफ एनाल्जेसिक, एंड आफ्टर द कंजम्पशन ऑफ दैट ड्रग and solution, when that drug by the help of blood will flow throughout your body, and it will see where there is the need of the action, where is the site for the action, where the receptors for such drugs are open, and there it will get attached. Now the reason behind elaborating this example is, if you see, when we take the drug, the concentration in the blood, that is plasma, and the concentration of the site where the drug action is required, is they are the two factors that we have to see. In the systemic circulation or in the plasma, if the concentration of drug is high, then the site where there is the need for that drug will ultimately get the less concentration of that particular drug. So here that Cg and Cp is that only. If you are taking the drug to cure the gastric intestinal issues, then the concentration of that consumed drug will be more in that GI tract. That concentration is reflected by this capital Cg, and there will be some of the concentration of same drug in the systemic circulation or in the plasma, we can say, and that is reflected by capital C and P. Okay, clear here? Because when I was studying this initially, I was having confusion about the concentration in near the site and concentration in the plasma. So I have searched on it. I have found it very interesting. So I have put forth front of you. Just a minute. Yeah. So we have seen the what are the exact coefficient, its meaning. Okay, now let's move towards the law. The law states that the passive diffusion from high concentration to low concentration occur until the equilibrium is set up and the rate of diffusion has direct ratio with the concentration gradient across the membrane.
Yes, Malika, you are.
I'm not audible.
You are not audible clearly.
Okay, just a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, am I audible now clearly? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So we were about the law that states that the passive diffusion that occur from the high concentration to low concentration, this process will continuously occur until the equilibrium is set up, and the rate of diffusion has direct ratio with the concentration gradient across the membrane. Here are the two vital points that we have to keep in mind, that initially the diffusion occur until the equilibrium is set up, and the second main point is that the rate of diffusion has direct ratio with the concentration gradient across the membrane. Okay, because passive diffusion doesn't use the external energies like active transport uses. It uses by the cellular respiration generated ATPs. But in case of passive diffusion, there is no external energy, there is no source of carry out the diffusion. If not, then you can interrupt in between and please ask, because sir is also there. He will also clear your doubts. Okay, just don't make it one way conversation. Please make it two way. So subsequent point tells us that the drug moves across the concentration gradient where surface area of site accelerate the rate of absorption. Yes. So I was telling about the capital K, which is the partition coefficient of the drug, and I have also told that it is having the ratio with the nature of the drug that we are going to consume. In this manner, that partition coefficient is high. If it is high, the concerned drug is highly lipophilic in nature. Lipophilic means it is lipid soluble. Okay? Just a minute. Now we are going to see about the active transport. So passive transport, it is clearly that it is majorly used transport system for nearly 90% of drug absorption. Then we have seen the fixed pulse law, which states that the the rate of, just a minute, yeah, it states that what, diffusion occur until the equilibrium is set up, and the rate of diffusion has direct ratio with the concentration gradient across the membrane, and here the partition coefficient, if it is high, the concerned drug will be lipophilic. Okay. In also, I have forgotten to quote here that sink condition, it is one of the condition that, as I told, the concentration of drug at the site where it is needed is maintained greater as compared to the concentration in the plasma. This condition is also known as sink condition. Okay, just keep in the mind. Active transport, in case of active transport, the movement of particles occur against the concentration gradient, that is from low to high. The diffusion occur from the low concentration to high concentration across the cell membrane. As it occurs from the medium of low to high, there is the requirement of energy. That energy, how it is coming, we will just look in that. This act which act, the active transport or active diffusion require energy which is supplied by mitochondrial production called ATP. They are known as energy currency. This mitochondria, by the cellular respiration, generates the ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which act as energy source for this active transport mechanism. Okay? This active transport can be subclassified as primary and secondary, where in case of primary, there is the direct hydrolysis of ATP for the energy generation. Okay, for example, we can say sodium and secondary. Points that you have to keep in mind, that first, in the active transport, the diffusion occur from low concentration to high across the concentration gradient. As this act is against the concentration gradient of cell membrane, it requires the energy, and that energy is going to be supplied by the mitochondria through the cellular respiration, and thus the active transport are again classified as primary and secondary, where in case of primary, in both the cases ATP are used, but the mode of utilizing that ATP are different. In primary, there will be the hydrolysis, direct hydrolysis of ATP, which will provide the energy to the concerned transportation of the drug. For example, sodium potassium pump. In case of secondary, here the energy which is utilized by one molecule for diffusion will be the same energy for the movement of other molecules. Here the energy, मतलब हम जो एनर्जी यूज कर रहे हैं एक मॉलिक्यूल को ट्रांसपोर्ट करने के लिए, डिफ्यूज करने के लिए अक्रॉस द कॉन्सेंट्रेशन ग्रेडियंट, वही सेम एनर्जी रिस्पॉन्सिबल होगी दूसरे मॉलिक्यूल के मूवमेंट के लिए. समझ में आई बात? एक ही एनर्जी है जो कि बोथ द मॉलिक्यूल्स, फर्स्ट इनिशियल और उसके सब्सिक्वेंट मॉलिक्यूल्स को ट्रांसपोर्ट करने के लिए यूटिलाइज हो रही है, और उसका एग्जांपल है को ट्रांसपोर्ट. ठीक है? वेदर इट इज ओके? Yeah,
Okay,
you can.
Malika, you can continue now. Okay.
Okay, sir. So I have a diagrammatic presentation of both passive transport and active transport. I have quoted here. Here, the first in first case, simple diffusion is occurring, that high concentration to low concentration across the concentration gradient. It is absorbing. In the facilitated diffusion, a special kind of protein is utilized, where you are seeing this. Just look towards the cursor, that it is the integral proteins present in the cell wall, and through which these drugs or molecules are diffusing from high concentration to low concentration. Okay, this is between concentration to the concentration. Here you can see here there is the diffusion from low to high by the use of ATP. Initially, the ATP will attack on the integral protein and make a clear way for the make the clear way for the transportation of drug from low to high. The port transport, where just a minute. Just I have put the diagram so that you will get the idea about the diagram, and whatever I am trying to explain you, if you will get that point, you can write it, you can elaborate it in your own words. So the purpose of just quoting the diagram is this. So port transport, it is also known as convective transport or bulk flow or filtration. The pore transport mechanism is through the protein channel present in the cell membrane. So here you are seeing these are the proteins which are present in the cell membrane, and through which there is the presence of the pores. Pores are nothing but the opaque area through which the drugs are going to be diffused. That these pore transport occur, or the actions through this pore transport occur in case of renal excretion, removal of drug from cerebrospinal fluid, the entry of drug into the liver. So in the case of HEP and patho, we have learned the renal excretion, we have learned the pore transportation. That you can also quote the example by elaborating its mechanism, okay, for the standard answers. Now the driving force is also important for the diffusion of drug through this pore transport, that is hydrostatic or osmotic.
Yes, Monica. Whatever the remaining points are there, you can continue now tomorrow, because already it is 10:58, because only 2 minutes are remaining for the next lecture. So very good. Whatever the points you have presented here, only here you have to you have to also try to include some of the animation here for the passive transport and for facilitated diffusion, that part. Okay. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Students, what about your journals? Have you completed your writing work? Okay. Today you have to finish everything. Whatever the remaining experiments are there, you have to complete it. Okay. Okay. Then we'll stop here, and you are free to leave the session.